Let's see if we can fix this bug where releasing a gun in the inline 2D makes the hand move. Let's review the code for receiving a released gun message. That happens in Scene Manager, where we're processing events around here, I think. And if we get the message of entity released, we find the entity, we find the hand mesh. If we have them both, we do something. If it's this member, we set the parent. We unset the parent. Otherwise, we unset the parent, set all the positions. What is this? LV? Does the payload have an LV? What is that? Entity released. LV. LV. Oh, linear velocity. This is if you're throwing it. Okay. Okay, come back to the Scene Manager. Okay, so in this case, we're going to be, it's not ourselves, it'll be here. We're going to unset any previous grab, setting the parent to null, and you set the hand mesh to the location in the hand mesh. But you don't want to do this if you're parented already. So if you don't have a parent, then you can do this. So if hand mesh parent is null, then you can do this. Essentially, if not, if there is no parent, then do that. And grab entity, you're setting that, forcing it to be null because you're releasing it, and then you're setting it absolute position to this, which is fine. I think that probably should fix it. So let's say start the server, open up. I'll jump into the space and I'll grab this gun, and an observer will come in and enter the space. And are we in the same space? I don't even see this person. Did we receive any errors? Can't establish connection to the server. Okay. Let's try again. 2 and 3. Okay, did this person get? What are the avatars in here? Let's see. Scene manager avatars. No avatars. How about over here? Scene manager avatars. No avatars here. So something failed upon getting connection. Okay. Let's try this again. It's about members. State. Okay, gets the gun parented, so it probably got member states. And we'll try to load in here. Okay, we have no avatars. Member states. Space ID, give me the summary. Or the state. Okay, we have one grabbed, no agents and member states. How about members? Space server. Is there something about member states? Okay, so we have that this person is in there. But we can't even establish the connection here. Can't establish a connection to the server. Any errors? Shouldn't be any errors. Let's try deleting these, making new space. That's my member ID. Firefox. Localhost. Bobby is entered. Alright. Can we see that? Do we see this guy? Alright, okay. So, was it just a blip? Must have been. Let's add a gun to the situation. So this can go into editing, go into tools, and add a gun there. And we'll grab that there, move around with it, and we will also release it. Click here, and our hand is fine. And what happens if we want to grab it over here? Now we've grabbed it, and I'm going to release it, and that works as well. Okay, so it appears we fixed that issue. Okay. This bug was fixed. Now we want to refactor the whole, remove left hand, right hand, and so one way to do this is consolidate this code. So we have this entity released and entity grabbed code that's here, which is working, but maybe we can move it because it's only related to the avatar. Maybe it could be in the avatar class, just listening for everybody. And this is this constructor is actually just for creating one thing though. Whereas that's kind of listening for everybody. Is there another place that I can put it? We have some about space that's assigning things into the hand here as well. Okay, so maybe the refactor could come later. I'm not sure where this should go yet. Maybe we need another class to manage all the avatar states. Let's put a pin in it. Maybe put all avatar / member states in one place. Now, one thing we didn't do is, so we're listening actively to the new release statements, but we need to handle release statements on the about space management. Oh, we did need to remove. Yeah, we need to do this. Remove the left-hand hand from the member state. So let's do that. So let's go into types, and we can remove this left and right. We no longer need this. So if we remove that, let's see what breaks. There is a error over here in member states. Member states is a class which records the state of every other member, even though this isn't strictly drawing their avatars. This is about their states, which maybe they can be combined. If this thing takes a scene, it could easily be responsible for creating those avatars. And the line we're having a problem with is this one is initializing self with left and right. Okay. So now that no longer has that. And then in the channel, the space channel, I think we had something that was modifying how we handle member movements, member states, and terminate after join cache members. Okay, so we're caching if a mic nickname change, member entered, member respond, member damaged, entity released, and entity grabbed. So here we were merging stuff into the member state, and I don't think we need these two anymore because we don't need to cache it into the member. We are already doing stuff in this space server to handle when something's grabbed and released. So this puts it into the state of the gen server, and we're getting that pushed to us in space channel after we join. Here, about space, we're getting the certain states sent to the client. So if we look at the about space, in the scene manager, we're subscribing to that, and here we will move grabbed entities into the hands of avatars, and we need to move released entities to their temporary new positions, rotations. So we can do the same treatment for released entities. So now it'll be released, and released has an entity ID, and we don't need the hand. So this payload just has the entity position and rotation. We don't need the hand. We don't need to see if there is a hand. We don't need to unset the, I think we need to unparent it. So entity parent should be null. And then we can move it into its new position, which is simply this. And entity position is payload entity position, position, quatrain comes from that. And I think that's it. So if we release something, it should be in the gen server. And let's see if it does happen. So I am going to grab this gun, walk to this corner over here, and release it. So now we have a gun all the way in that corner. Next, this person here hasn't even joined. He's already loaded the scene, but when I join, it will process the new position, and you see that gun has moved. It should be in one of the corners, and it's over here. So that works. Okay, so we've refactored, we've removed that part, and we've added temporary positions for that. So now if we kill the server, load it up again, the gun won't retain that position. That's because it was only held in the gen server and should return to the origin, which it is there. Great, so you have this restart, and that's what we wanted. So we have these transient items, so items that are picked up and grabbed and released, that's sort of done. Now what about ammo? That turns out to be a tricky one, right? So you need a count in an ammo. Ammo left in a gun. So a gun maybe comes, let's say it comes with 10 bullets or something. That means that we could put a use counter and when should we populate that? Maybe upon the first time you're shooting it. You say, oh, I've never seen this entity before. You're being shot. So since the key doesn't exist, I'll put 10 in my map. And every time I see a bullet being shot from it, I'll reduce that 10. But as the person who picked up the gun, I need to ask, how many bullets does it have? Maybe when you're asking, that's also the assumption that you put 10 in it. Hmm. And then it should be no more until I pick up more ammo. So before we do that, why don't we create the ability to pick up something, to collect something. So maybe we can render an ammo box, place it into the scene, and then when we get close to it, we need to be able to collect it and hide it. Okay, so to do, create ammo box primitive, and then listen for intersection. So you have to be within, let's say, 2 meters of it, and then click on it. Point at it. And then hide or remove the mesh as you add it to the collected map. Okay, that seems straightforward enough. Let's do this. So go to primitives. Let's add ammo box. Then you draw this. So you go to scene manager. Goes entity created. Find to create the mesh. Okay, so let's do else if entity type is ammo box. Let's create a box. So mesh equal Babylon mesh builder create box. And should be entity name. Actually, for capsule, it should be an entity name as well. I don't know why that's different. And it should be a little bit on the smaller end, so 0.5 meter wide, tall, deep, maybe this skinnier, and height is maybe 0.5 meter tall as well. And it's this scene. Okay, so now we have a box. Okay, not very exciting box, but maybe we should give it a color or something. Did we color any of these? What about gun? Gun. I think we did something like this. And any components, push a color on it. So we can do that with the ammo box. And the components, push color, and let's say it is this is a gray. Let's make it a darker gray, so we can go 9. Something like that. And how does that look? So we should have that in our menu now. We go, let's release this. And we'll go to menu, toggle to editing, then go to tools, primitives, and ammo box. Okay, there's our ammo box. Looks fine. Alright, so if we want to collect it, we got to get up to it and click it, and then we can add it to collect it. So this is new functionality. So maybe it's like some kind of collecting objects that we need to create. So maybe a scene, and you want to collect things. So maybe we create a class. It's called collection. Collect manager. Export class collect manager. Constructor. And we want to start some listeners. Namely, if you're doing a point, you want to check against all the things that are marked as collectible. So in the scene manager, when we're creating this, maybe we can tag this as collectible. And so maybe if you listen, so you go signal hub, and let's see, local on, and we're listening for a pointer info, and we're going to filter by info, and the info. So what is this? This is a type of observable pointer info, which I think is a type. Or what are the properties? Pipe info on. Where have we done this before? Inline pipe, pointer pick. This is what we want. Yeah, info info type. We also need to import type everything as Babylon from Babylon JS. Alright, info. Okay, so it's just kind of point a pick. And we need to know where we are. So we need the scene. So we need public scene, which is a type of Babylon scene. So if we're clicking a thing and so the other thing that needs to be true is that we have to, the mesh has to have a collectible on it. So, and info event no info type dot, we gotta get a picked thing. So what was the other place I had this on the inline? Info pick info. Info, oh there it is. Pick info has to have a hit picked mesh. So that has to be non-false, and Babylon tags query matches query on the info picked mesh has to be collectible. So maybe we can separate these a bit. So we'll just do that and that and. So if all of these are true, you have a filter. I really just need, okay, so if this is true, I just need you to map it into this. So we'll do filter here, then we'll do map info into info picked mesh. That sends mesh data. So we'll send map to and import that. What's the issue here? Oh, we need a comma here, right? So now then this has to be true, so you filter again. So filter on the picked mesh has to have this, so this has to be true, which is now picked mesh. Yeah. So it means you clicked, and the thing you clicked on has a picked mesh, because this has to be true, so you have to filter guess you could do this all in one go. So picked mesh and, right? So it's something, can't be null. And then this will give you the mesh. So then here we'll just console log picked mesh is the mesh, and that's all in the constructor. So let's just create the collect manager sometime after the scene is created. So we can go to scene manager, and where are we creating the scene? So we can just add pre-camera parse initial scene, and we're waiting for messages of something being collected, right? So add this as a new collect manager that takes this scene. And so it should console log something. So clicking here does nothing. Clicking here also does nothing. Let's try refresh. Okay, still nothing. Does it have the right tag? So scene get meshes by tags and say collectible anything. Okay, there is something there. Collect manager, console log, signal hub pointer info. Okay, so maybe it's this. All these things are not allowing it through. So let's say pointer pick. We want only the pointer pick information. So let's just see if we get something here. So disabling that. Okay, got a picked mesh here. And then we want to say, we want to transform this into picked mesh. So what is the value here? Okay, picked mesh gave me a function here. Oh, picked mesh. So what is this? This is a pick info. So this becomes info. Info. Okay, this is a pointer info. This should still be a Babylon pointer info. So that's what map 2. Okay, I think, is it because I need to return this? I think I just need map, right? Not map 2. Okay, that should give me the mesh. Yeah, that's the mesh. Finally, I want to make sure that the mesh is something, and it matches that, then I should still get the mesh. Okay, got it. And then that the mesh is near my camera. Okay, so if mesh dot distance get distance to camera, the camera is this scene active camera is less than or equal to 2, then console.log should collect, else console log too far. So if I'm clicking over here, I think I'm too far. Get up here, it should collect. Okay. Good. Then, now what? We can collect it. I think we need a new message. We need a new type. Maybe it's entity collected. Okay, it's in the neighborhood of this kind of stuff. So let's say entity collected. It's 5030. Okay, this file is changed, means that we also change the this file, right? Entity name, yeah. It was entity, what? Name, event names, event name, entity grab, entity collected, there it is. Alright, so now we can add a type here, event name entity collected. Who's doing the collecting? This is the person doing the collecting. This is the entity ID that's collected. And I don't need to know anything else about you. It's collected. Okay, so we can emit that. I guess we're only counting the things we collect, so we also need the scene. So let's go to the collection manager. Please give us the public member ID for ourselves. And in the scene manager, please pass this to it. This member ID. Therefore, in here, we can now generate a message. So, outgoing, emit, since everybody needs to make it disappear, it's going to be an event. The value will be message, which will be event name, entity collected, and the payload shall be member ID, which is this member ID, and the entity ID will be this mesh ID. We'll emit that going out. And coming in. Alright, so we're collecting it. Very good. And what do? So in the space server, we should add that to our collection. And once you collect it, I don't think you ever release it, right? We'll see. We'll go to space server and handle entity grabbed, entity released, handle, and entity collected. Entity collected. Payload will have an entity ID and member ID. Okay, so new collected. Will be map put into state collected. The entity ID, and then we'll just delete from that payload the entity ID, which would just contain the map with a member ID. Collected. If this thing was able to be grabbed and released, it might be in released. And so I think we would want to delete it from any released or grabbed. You know, come to think of it, you want to have just, you don't want to keep deleting it out of these other maps. You'd rather have one map, which would be entity map, and it has a state. Because then you could replace wherever it is anywhere. You don't have to update these other maps. So it's like I'd rather have a map that looked like entities, and this would just be a map, and it would be like some entity ID 1, and this would be either, so we want this to be JSON compatible. So it can be a map, it has to be a map of the last known state. So last state, which could be grabbed, or I guess entity grabbed, or last event, entity grabbed, or entity released, or entity collected. And then the corresponding payload, which would be the data that came with the event. Right? And then if that's sent over, then you parse all of these, and each one of these you would just be looking at one of these, and then you don't have to update these other maps. Okay, let's do that next time. Let's take a break for now.